or I guess good afternoon out there to everybody out in the States. So I threw this, I had the team go back and looked at our um, past workshops and kind of asked them to throw this whole thing together. Just because the last week it's been a crazy week and quite challenging, I think, for a lot of us. And I've been getting nonstop phone calls from my clients, and we've been going a lot over their financials, their cash positions, as well as kind of what scenarios, what um, options we have for the rest of the year as this coronavirus hit um, the different economies of the world, and then the ripple effects of it kind of translate from economy to economy. And I'm no expert in the disease itself, but what I'm actually seeing is that because people are being stopped, people are unable to go out, and events are being canceled, hotels are being shut down, and you see that effects happening to every business, but especially for small business, it's extremely hard because the cash flow stops almost immediately. And unfortunately, I have a few clients that are in a very very tough position because of it, and everybody is scrambling trying to figure out kind of what to do next. So what I want to do today with this workshop is really for us to go over the mock review that I have been doing with my client for the last week. So what we've been doing is we've gone back. The first thing that we did was that we actually stopped payments to everything for the time being, and we came back to the desk and reevaluated everything, um, and then we decided where we were going to move forward from here. So I want to just walk over that really quick, and let me see if I can figure this out. I'm not screen sharing, and I'm not sure how I can screen share. Hmm, okay. Huh. All I see is a screen of myself, and that's it. Okay, well, I'm just gonna move ahead with this because I can't figure out how to screen share. Okay, so I wanna go over real quick about sort of what we're doing. The agenda is pretty simple. I want to talk about the three ways that we're going to find hidden cash for your business, and then I'm going to go into this Q&A session if I can figure out how to do that, um, and see if I can answer any questions. So I'll just jump right ahead. The first thing that we did for all of our clients is that, like I said earlier, we stopped cash outflow. We stopped all of the money going out for the time being while we reviewed. And the first thing that we reviewed is that we pulled out our financial statements and we pulled out our profit and loss statement. Okay. And then if you start at your profit and loss statement, and if you start at the top, you literally can go through every single line item or every single big categories and try to understand um, and ask yourself the questions of what is happening there, and why is it happening there, why is it happening, and then how do I move forward from that. So I'll give you an example. If you pull up your financial statements, and if you can right now, that would be actually great, we can walk through it together. If you pull up your financial statement and you look at your revenue, the first thing you have to understand is am I still going to have revenue coming in the next 2, 3, 4, and 5 months? And if I am not going to have that revenue come in, why is that? Okay. And one of my clients, for example, they're in a consulting business like myself, and their revenue is really broken up into two types. They have workshops and then they have consulting. So their entire workshop revenue is done for this month as well as the next, and then maybe even May. So there's nothing we can do about April. However, in May, there's a little bit time for us to plan. So what we did there is that we went into our cash forecasting model, and then we went ahead and charted that out. Okay. Once we said, hey, you know what, we used to our last forecast says that in March we're going to do about $400,000. However, we only got about 170 because we only got one event in, and then in April that's going to be zero. In May that's going to be zero, and then in June it might be 20 or 30% back. And once you plot that number out over your cash forecasting model, then you're able to see where do you sit in your cash position. Okay, you're able to see, okay, am I going to have a problem? Okay, and then the other thing that you can look at for your revenue section is that you can try and understand, how do I make money? Going back to the fundamentals of business, of how do I make money? Right? What market did I play in? What geography did I play in? And also what type of revenue? I know there's plenty of webinars going on right now, and I've been participating in a lot of them and reading a lot of the reports from BCG as well as McKinsey, and everyone's talking about, hey, let's move our revenue from offline to online. In this case, the example of a workshop, maybe we can do a virtual workshop. Now that's a fantastic idea, and that's one idea to do it. Um, the other thing that I will argue is, take a look at your revenue and why it isn't coming in. Is it a trust thing, or is it a like I physically can't thing? An event would be a I physically can't thing because of state policy, country's policy. A consulting gig that is losing, or people are not buying because of lack of faith or because of lack of trust. That's a different type of issue. So I would try and identify that kind of issue, in order for you to come up with a solution. I'll work closely with your sales and marketing team on that as well. Another example that I have when it comes to revenue was earlier this year in February. We actually already saw this problem. We didn't have revenue coming in for some of my clients in manufacturing because that was when China was getting hit the hardest. And when China was getting hit the hardest, um, and that coupled with Chinese New Year, we just weren't able to get any of the goods in. So even though at that time the market was still fine in the US and the rest of the world, people are still buying, we just couldn't physically deliver the good. So know how in February, the revenue problem in February and the March problem in February, and the revenue problem in March versus the revenue problem down the road. Even though you're seeing, oh, I'm only getting 20, 30, 40, maybe 50% of your revenue coming in, you have to learn and identify kind of why that is. Why is your revenue missing? And because by identifying why your revenue is missing, you're able to discover new opportunities. And I'll share one with you. I have one more client that is getting hit the same way. In February, we're having problem because we couldn't get the goods. Now we're having problem because people are not buying, because the people buying don't have work, because they're forced being shut down. They're in the entertainment business, installation of entertainment equipment business. And what we have discovered was that Canada was actually still doing good. So geographic wise, they're still doing good. So we were able to, in the last week or so, shift our direction and then move the entire operation, move the entire sales effort to Canada, because they were able, while even though they're shut down, they were able to actually still install the equipment, because they were going to shut it down anyways when they're doing the installation. So they were still able to buy the product that we're able to get from China, and be able to install them during this downtime. So that is actually a very interesting thing. So a geography play right there. So yeah, that's kind of what I would do when it comes to revenue section, understand kind of what market are you playing in, what geography are you playing in, and also what type, are you able to shift kind of your business. Another one that I was talking to with my buddy yesterday was that alcohol manufacturer are being able to shift their production line to be able to move into producing sanitizing alcohol rather than consumable alcohol. So those are a couple of examples that I can give right there. Then I will move down really to cost of goods sold. All right, when you look at your cost of goods sold, um, I guess the question that I will have to ask right here. I mean, I'm not sure if there's a whole lot we can do with. I'm not sure if there's a whole lot we can do with cost of goods sold here. However, the terms are able to be negotiated right now. They're gonna push back really hard on it because I think everybody is going to everybody is going to feel the cash crunch pretty soon. So I'm not sure how much leverage you're gonna have here, and I'll talk about asking for terms in a little bit as we're going through expenses, because there's some interesting play there as well. So if we keep moving along, the next big thing that we always talk about is direct labor. For most of us, our small business, direct labor are a big portion of our expenses. These are our team and our employees and the people who's really been there for us since the beginning, the people who have really put us where we are at on the map. And that's really an important piece and a sensitive piece right there because when a company's revenue goes down, and I'm already seeing it across the board right here, there are actually let me begin by saying this. I truly believe the first job of entrepreneur is that we need to protect our team. Um, we signed up for entrepreneurship. We signed up for that roller coaster of a life that we called entrepreneur life, I guess. Shout out to Ian and Duran who hates it when I say entrepreneur. Um, but we're the one that choose this. We're the guys that make the most money when times are good, and therefore I think we should be the one that takes the hit in the when times are bad. And our job is to protect our staff and our employees and our team while we're at it. Um, I think layoffs are going to happen. I know a few companies that already have a plan of laying people off. This is just the nature of things as revenue shrink and as there's a cash crunch. It's sad, but it's inevitable. But I think there's something that there's two stories real quick I want to share that really touched me this week. Was that one of my client came to me, sent out an email on Monday and said, you know what, we need to stop all payments and we need to review our payments before any of them go out. And so except for the team, okay, except for the team and our employees, they get paid. The rest of the vendor, we need to look at it, and then we need to decide based on how much cash is coming in, who gets paid what, when. And I think that's a fair statement. Our employees did not sign up for the entrepreneur life. We can't expect them. You can ask, and I think some employees, and the good thing about small business is loyalty. Some employees might be inclined to do that. I actually have a client who have employees that came up to the CEO and say, "Hey, I know times are tough. I know we're running into this issue. I'm okay, and I'm willing to donate my salary to the next guy, cash wise, not the salary itself. I'm willing to donate, my portion of the salary cash wise, to employees that need it more than me." And that makes me tear up when I hear that. But I think there is that opportunity. So what we're doing, a lot of our clients we're doing, again, depending on your relationship with your staff. I have quite a few clients that are doing our financial modeling, doing our financial projection, and then taking that to the team. If you ever read The Great Game of Business, we talk about open book management. Um, Taking that, and if you've been doing that, that's great. If you haven't been doing that, I think this is a good time to start taking the entire financial model to the team and say, hey, look, this is kind of where we're at. This is where we're at. This is kind of our plan. This is our strategy. You absolutely have a choice um, to decide one way or the other. Do you want to start looking for another job? Do are you willing to take some time off, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? I think that's an extremely important conversation for us to have with our team early on in the game and being open and transparent about it because if you're any business, I'm guessing your payroll is taking up most of your expenses beyond cost of goods sold. And if you're a service company, there's no question about it. You're looking at anywhere between 40 to 60%. So that's what I would do, and that's what we've been doing with our existing customers a lot. And we're finding some pretty good results. You'll be surprised, I think, the way people come together in tough times like this. And again, some touching stories as well as we go along with it. Um, and then from there, I really would like to figure out. I can't even read you guys' comments if anybody is commenting. Um, so I like to figure out how to screen share so it'll be easier. Anyways, we would move along to keep going down into your LER. No, past your LER and then down to your really operating expenses. So operating expenses, remember there's really five categories and it's pretty easy. General and administrative payroll. These are your executives, and another story. I think for your executives and for your admin people, it's the same way, right? What kind of cash forecasting model do you have, and what kind of conversation can you have with them? And I think if you're owner and CEO, and if you can swing it, this is the time for us to cut our pay down to zero. I mean, a lot of us take up a lot of the expenses um, for our company. So if you're a 2, 3, $4 million company, and if you cut your own payroll, you're looking at 150 to $200,000 in cash outflow that you'll be able to make up later on down the road. Um, let's see here. Okay. Bonus is another one I think we looked at. We delayed a lot of the bonus for a lot of our clients just due to tough times. Um, and then other expenses, travel, I think, marketing, travel expenses right now, that's another tough one. A lot of us have already booked our travel for the rest of the year. And as they're being canceled, most of us are not getting the money back. And um, that is because these guys can't really afford to give our money back. It doesn't really matter if you're, a small company like 1, 2, 3, 4, $5 million, or if you're a bigger company that are doing 5, 10, $20 million. This virus, this impact of things shutting down, it's a stop of cash flow. So I always love this example of the chicken crossing the road, right? If a chicken crossed the road and then the first car breaks, and the second car breaks, and the third car breaks, and then by the time you're the 50th car, you get past where the chicken originally crossed the road, the chicken had already gone, but you've been in traffic for an hour, right? And you ever drive by the traffic and you're like, what happened here, right? And that's kind of that effect that's happening right now. Coronavirus happened, things got shut down, and then now it's having that traffic jam or rippling effect throughout the economy. Even if we cure the virus by tomorrow, we're still going to see this down the road. And that's why it's extremely important for us to be able to first, you got to be able to have a mean talk to your accountant, talk to your CPA and your controller. You got to have a mean to understand not just your P&L stuff, everything I'm talking about right here, but also be able to forecast that out into the future. Okay, right now it's not a question of I'm using the P&L statement, but right now it's not a question of profitability. Right now it's a question of survivability, and with the cash that you have and the cash that you're able to collect coming in down the road, and you're able to distribute out. Um, if you have a big AR right now, the time to collect is already past. The time to collect was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, because as everybody become more and more aware, people are stopping their payments to their vendors. Okay, and if you're not aware, if that's not happening to you yet, that is going to happen. I can guarantee you. I'll bet you my business on it. so so that is going to happen next month and the month after that. So go back to that whole event space. If you have already booked, let's say you have already booked the hotel for South by Southwest, or if you have already booked the Long Beach Grand Prix or anything like that, these events are not, they're canceling, but they're not going to give you your money back because they have already spent it. Right? If they're putting together an event, they have debt to their vendors as well. So you see how this is kind of happening, and people would give excuses like, oh yeah, we're gonna postpone this to a later date, right? But and that's a cash flow, because a later date is not good enough. If you need that $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 today, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the event is going to happen next year or in December, because if you were counting on a trade show in April to generate the revenue you need to kind of fund yourself, if that same April event gets dropped to December, I don't know if many of us have enough cash runway to survive that. In fact, I would argue maybe 80% of small businesses, EEO and YEC, just don't have that kind of cash runway. Okay, so what do you do? What we've been doing with our clients is that first, well, we talk to our lawyers, right? What is we talk to our lawyers and we talk to our credit card, all right? What is the law around us getting those money back? And if you put the expenses on credit card, this is where you're asking them to go to work for you, and I'll touch a little bit on asking for money at this time right now. um, there in my mind there are three types of vendors, right? There are the banks, who's got, I think, the most leverage. These guys are big, and the government are going to help them. You and I, nobody are coming for us. All right, us small business owners, all we have is each other, and no one is coming for us to bail us out anytime soon. The banks, however, they might, we've seen it done in the past. They might get bailed out, and we've called in the last week or so, all of my clients, we made an effort to call American Express, we made an effort to call our banks, and you'll be surprised, we're able to get 60-day terms, 90-day terms, even on American Express. So that's actually something I would recommend you guys do, because there's no hurt in doing it. It's a phone call. It's a phone call, and they can afford, your 20, 30, 40, $50,000 in credit card debt. A small business like mine, I can't afford, if you owe me $50,000 and you don't pay me, that's going to really, really, really hurt me and hurt my P&L and hurt my cash flow, right? But if I am Chase, $50,000 kind of like you don't pay me $50. Okay, so that's the first one. The banks, I would definitely go hard with them and ask them for that money. The second group of people would be bigger vendors. All right, as you're going through your P&L, as you're going through your your facility expenses, as office expenses, big companies are able to weather storms like this from a cash position. Again, we're not talking about profit, but we're talking about just purely cash. All right. So bigger companies like the Verizons of the world, the Disney of the world, the Apples of the world. These guys are able. If you have these guys as your vendor, these guys are probably the ones that are able to help you out as well. And we're talking about this webinar about how finding fund money. Same thing. We've been making phone calls, and surprisingly, we're able to get 60-day terms on our phone bill. And it might not be a lot, but then again, every cent help, right? You're literally trying to go through your P&L right now, go through all your entire accounts payable. You're listing out your vendors, and you're trying to identify who can I ask for better terms. And terms are great because they buy us time, right? Most entrepreneurs don't understand the difference between profit and cash, and that profit is a matter of ideas and theory and accounting and business and strategy, whereas cash is reality. And I'm not talking about access to cash. People like to get fancy, and I'm saying like, no, it's cash. Like, open up your wallet, how much cash you have in it, or maybe like your bank. But even bank, you guys realize this? Some banks already limit how much money you can take out. Okay, how much cash you can withdraw. Which brings me to another point. If you have a line of credit right now, you should probably draw that out and put it in a separate account. Because if the bank are not already doing it, as they're seeing this effect, yes, like I said it just probably 5 minutes ago, that American Express, Chase, and Wells Fargo, these guys, they can afford to give you better terms, but those monies still come from somewhere. And then when they feel the crunch, and then when they, and these guys are smart, they're not dumb. They didn't get to where they are today by being dumb and being bad with money. So they're going to look at this, and this is what we always talk about in the entrepreneurial world. They When you need money, they're not going to give it to you. All right. And if you have a line of credit right now and you don't have those pulled and they feel the crunch, they will take those away from you. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. So if you have line of credit right now, I will recommend you pull it out, drop it in a different account. You literally want to have as much cash. Cash is like your war chest. All right, it's like your survival pack. It's like, when shit hit the storm, when your money making machine is no longer generating revenue, no longer generating cash, you're relying on your safety net. You're relying on your war chest to survive this. All right, it's a matter of time. So I will definitely look into that. So second one is like so go back again. Number one is bank. Number two is these bigger vendors, the Verizons of the world, the T-Mobiles of the world, asking them for that. And I will also, something else that we find extremely surprising is that we've been asking for rent abatement. Um, in California for sure, in Nevada, Florida, New York, for sure, off the top of my head, these four states we have some Atlanta, I think as well. These we have clients in that have success um, in asking for rent abatement. Now the law, the states and have been coming in and actually preventing eviction and all that over the next 60 days, and we'll see how that policy comes in. And so the landlord have no leverage, okay, and they really, and also they're in the same boat. Everybody's in the same boat. We're really trying to help each other out. So they'd rather keep you in business for as long as possible, and so that you can pay them later on. So we're able to actually get 1 month, 2 months, I believe, for sure. I'm not sure if we've gotten more than that, but right now we've gotten, I think the best case scenario, we've gotten 2 month abatement for some of our clients on some of the rent. And again, it's just by asking. And most of these guys, if you're dealing directly with the owner or if you're dealing with a management company, they're pretty nice. We actually had a management company call us and said, don't panic. They're willing to work with us and they're willing to help us out. So if you're not getting rent abatement, at the very least, ask for a longer term. And again, people are extremely nice. And again, everybody is in this together. So that's the second part. And then lastly, I think is your other vendor, your other small business vendor. And at this point, it's tough. It's tough because I've seen creatively, we almost kind of we almost revert back a little bit into a little bit of a barter system. And I'll give you my personal example. And this is not a client, this is me. We're working with a marketing partner, and I said, look, I need to hold every dollar I have got right now. Okay, I have a pretty good runway, but I need to hold every dollar I've got right now. And every one of my client is asking me for help. And it's very the issue of being a financial wingman or CFO, outsourced CFO, is that I can't do this. I can't review the entire financial statement, entire P&L, and say, yeah, let's ask for rent abatement. Hey, ask for better term, and then gets to professional service accounting and just go, oh yeah, and that's what you pay me, and then moving on, right? Um, Unfortunately, I can't do that. So I'm getting the same thing. I'm being asked, and we're trying our best. We're looking at our clients and we're saying, hey, look, in this time of crisis, how can we reduce our scope, right? If either reduce our scope, or how can we shift into, from going from, product ABC into XYZ, perhaps that can help you guys a little bit better. And we're doing a lot of that by shifting, a lot of what's traditionally important services into things like what we're doing right now, strategic, cash flow modeling, cash flow forecasting, that type of stuff. We're also seeing a slow shift of a bartering system going on as well, um, which is I was talking to my marketing guy. I said, hey, look, I just can't afford any more dollars going out right now, but I have this idea that we can really drive our new online revenue. And if you're okay with it, if you're willing to put some time into it, and I'll put some time into it myself, as I'll put some of my labor resources into it as well. Let's build this together, and then let's split the profit 50-50. So again, that ties up to how do we reshift our revenue type, right? How do we reshift our market? Again, another example is that my consulting engagement at 5,000, $10,000 a month, people are less willing and less uh, there's just more fear and less willing to pay that kind of money. How are we able to kind of change that into, 100, 200, $500 type of self-consumable consulting, or maybe worksheets or work paper? Again, not just shifting the type and shifting the model, and then finding your vendor partners together to do that with you. Um, and I think that's kind of it when it comes to really asking for expenses, or the ones that we have been seeing success in. Let me just double check my room right here, my notes right here. Um, yeah, I think that is really it. And once you have those sorted out, okay, once you've gone through with your accountant and your CFO and sorted out your expenses and your income and understand all of the input. Remember, this is not an accounting exercise. You need all hands on deck with this. You need your VP of sales and your VP of marketing, your CMO to contribute onto the revenue, input. You need your COOs to talk about productions. You need your team's buy-in on the workload, as well as their payroll. Remember, your job is to protect them out of the four places that you're asking money from: the banks, the big vendors, the small vendors, and your employees. Again, they didn't sign up for this. It's really not up to them. However, you can present them the financial modeling and the financial forecasting, and ask them, hey, here's kind of what we're up against. An example that I gave you, that is, we actually cut back all of our expenses, and say, okay, payroll is, 80,000. At the bare minimum, payroll is 80,000 a month, and at 30% of profit, that's $240,000 in revenue. That's what we have to make. And taking that model and saying, here's our strategy for it, here's our shift in revenue, here's our cutting in expenses, and taking that financial model and presenting it to the team and say, hey, look, this is the nut, this is your salary, this is the nut that we have to make, this is our plan, this is our strategy, what do you want to do? um, And again, if they choose to jump ship because that, then that's their choice. And or if they choose to stick around and push through with the company by taking their salary at a later date or anything like that, again, that's their choosing as well. So yeah, out of the four ways to ask cash, I think that's the last one. Our job as entrepreneur is to protect them first and foremost. And then once you have your revenue, your expenses charted out, you want to be able to put that into a financial forecasting model. All right. And then if you can financial forecast this model by a month and update them at this time, I usually recommend update them monthly, but during this time of crisis, I will update them weekly, if possible, to be able to see where you land. All right. And once we do that exercise, once we have that financial forecast modeling modeled out, we are actually seeing either a relax in the shoulder of, okay, we're gonna be okay until October, until November. Now that's think about how do we not just survive this, but how do we grow out of this and really make an impact. And really, again, we're entrepreneurs, right? That's what we do. We solve problems in time of crisis. And how do we really grow out of this rather than just survive it? So, but like, fuck. The reality is we might go out of business in a month or 2 months if we don't make some drastic changes. And that at that time, I think you need to put in motion your plan of either securing additional funding, or as a CEO, do I dump this in? Do I shift my company? Or do I, unfortunately, and actually we do have few clients that the plan for the next 30, 60, 90 days is how do we wind down this business, and really protect our staff and our team and our credibility while we're at it. These are all kind of examples of what we've been doing for the last week or so. Um, I know this was supposed to be a 30 minutes presentation with some Q&A, but I can't figure out the Q&A either. So I think I am going to sign off here. And if you have questions or comments, this is follow us on Deep Sky, on Instagram. I think it's at deepsky.co. And then also on here, if you're on here, the page here. Follow us here. I'm going to get some feedback. If you have questions, go ahead and drop it in the comments. Anyways, and that way, if I can gather more of this, and as this thing develop, as we work more and more with our clients, we're gonna put together more and more of these presentations. If you find it helpful, and share it with you guys next week, probably again on Tuesday, and then we'll see how things happen. If we might do another one next Thursday or Friday. So again, what we want to do is we want to pass this information out and help people really understand. Don't panic. Like, well, first of all, be smart and know that there is a problem, and know that we're all in this together. Either you have already felt it, or you're feeling it right now, or you're going to feel it. I talked with like 3 or 4 of our clients. Um, I called them up and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're fine. Everything is still good." And I'm like, "You're not gonna be fine for that long." And we did the analysis that we just went over, and then we did the cash forecasting. And one of them actually turns out they're gonna see that impact in a little bit later, in beginning of April, we're guessing. And usually we're pretty good about this in forecasting. So now we're already putting. I'm sorry, not beginning of April, beginning of May, and now we're already putting. Now we have a whole month to put in kind of some of those strategies, those plans that we talk about, in through the rest of March and then in April. So then hopefully we will turn that thing around, or we're turning the ship around before we hit the iceberg. I hope that's the position you're in right now, so you can look out ahead and look forward instead of you're just hurting it. However, if you're feeling it right now and you're hurting hard already, I think there were some tips on this call about asking for money and finding cash in your business. That's hopefully helpful to you. So yeah, Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys have any more additional question. Drop them in. We're gonna go ahead and organize this a little bit better. I need to figure out the technology. I just kind of threw this together. I want to share really what happened with our clients in the last week or so, and I want to make sure that you guys find this helpful. So, leave any more questions you have, any comments, any changes that you want, and we might organize it and then do another one next week. So hope you guys keep solving problems out there, keep kicking ass, and I'll see you guys around. Entrepreneur life.